tricking people into believing that they had some access to divine power and knowledge when they were just really high-level pimps, is what I call them, man. And the people, the ignorance of the people, before Moses and all these people, supposedly were even born or existed, that thousands of years before them, an advanced race lived on this planet, built an Atlantean global civilization, probably Atlantean interplanetary civilization that had capability of space flight and everything else, and that they most likely genetically modified the existing hominids, which then became Homo sapiens sapien, in order to put us all in slavery and make us do the workload for them. If they knew that, those stories and those tales from the Sumerian tablets, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of Going Forth by Day, aka the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Enuma Elish and the Seven Tablets of Creation, the Epic of Atrahasis, and the Myth of Adapa, if they knew that all these texts predominantly made up the majority of the Bible, then we would be like, well, what are you guys preaching to us? This is all fake. This is all lies. And we know that in the Emerald Tablets, which is my book compendium of the Emerald Tablets, that the majority of Jesus' teachings in the New Testament come directly from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which are 38,000-year-old teachings. So they must control and hide and secure evidence of this information and this knowledge to keep people basically in this level of ignorance where they can continue to control them and steal their money.
Well, what? And this is the weirdest thing. While I was driving around, I went to Rome. I was staying in Rome when I went to Vatican City, and then I was down the street from the Colosseum, and I got to see the Colosseum. And you see Rome is everywhere, like Roman, every stuff all over the place. And man, I don't want to sound ignorant, man, but it was the first time when I went to Vatican City and I connected it to Rome. I was like, wait a minute. Roman Catholic Church. I never connected Roman, as in like the Rome Empire, to Catholicism. Yeah. Even though it's always been called the Roman Catholic Church, I just never connected it. And that was the first time I'm like, oh my God, that's right, Constantine. Oh my God, that he's the one that created the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. And they're the ones that sat down and like, okay, let's argue about what really Jesus is. And so they basically built up the mythology in the Council of Nicaea, right?
Yes. The Council of Nicaea came together, built up the mythology. They added to the story. They took from a lot of ancient texts and tablets, and then they kind of curated this book, which they wanted to call it a canonized Bible, right? So they took from here, took from there, this tablet, this scripture, that papyrus, this Nag Hammadi piece. We like this coming out of this text over here. And then they kind of just culminated together and then remixed it, put their own spin on it, to make sure that slavery was approved and okay, right? Well, we want to add that in there. Got to make sure the slavery is approved, because people were enslaving each other since back and before the black slaves. I'm talking about in the ancient times, slaves were already going on. Slavery was already going on. Yeah, sure. It's nothing new. Yeah. And then so you had that. And then, of course, we want to collect a lot of money. So they have to pay us. We got to make sure we got the money. You got to pay. You know what I'm saying? And you got to do the labor, and you got to bring the offerings, because we ourselves are not going to go out and hunt and grow farms and everything else. So you guys, you're going to have to bring these offerings to us. We want it already cooked, so make sure it's a burnt offering. Make sure you drain the blood. Make sure it's healthy for us, and bring us your first harvest, because we want the freshest fruit and the freshest vegetables. We don't want the stale stuff. Yes. We want your freshest wheat and the freshest breads. And so people would come down and bring everything to the church and give it all away, along with whatever money they had left. And these people would live like fat cats, literally, off of pimping the knowledge and understanding of what's going on and tricking people into believing that they had some access to divine power and knowledge when they were just really high-level pimps, is what I call them, man. And the people, the ignorance of the people, you almost can't blame them, but yet at the same time, it's like, how can so many masses of people stand up and fall for this? But it happens. But also, you got to remember the way that they went around, the way that the Council of Nicaea put this in place with Rome, and Rome said, we're now going to dominate the planet with this religion. So they combined their beliefs with the Christianity. All right, because they felt like keeping it separate was creating too much, anger between the two sides, and everybody wanted to go head to head. So we're going to combine it. We'll add our stuff in with their stuff, and we'll make it a national religion.
Well, yeah, they were getting
over.
Well, they were getting unruly, And Constantine said, "Look,
They were
I'll be
getting unruly,
Christian.
correct.
I'll be Christian. I'll be Christian.
Yeah.
Let's all do this, guys. I'll be Christian. Let's go over here. We'll put a pope
Yeah.
up. The pope, he talks to God every day.
Yeah.
The bishops, they talk to
Right.
God every few days. The cardinals, they talk to him like maybe once a month, twice a month, and the priests
Right.
talk to them every once in a while. But this is
Yeah.
it's an ordered thing. But no, but we're with you guys because the Christians were starting to get a little out of hand, so they needed to control them.
Yeah. They need to control them. So, if you can't beat them, join them. That's the mindset, right? We'll add some of our stuff in with theirs. We'll mix it all around. We'll remix it. But now, here's the trick. As Rome was on its global escapade trying to dominate and take over the planet, everywhere they went, they would then instill and install this Christianity, this Catholic Christianity in those areas. But this is how they did it. People believed that Christianity was spread by love and the good news, and no. It was spread by rape, bloodshed, murdering, and killing.
Crusades.
And so when they came to your town, they literally would take your women and your children. They would, they would take the leader of that village or whatever. They would show, hey, you guys are going to bow down to us. You're going to follow this religion. You're going to speak our language. And they'll make an example out of somebody, and then everybody else would follow suit. And if they didn't, then they would say, okay, we're going to give you a lot of these torture devices. They would have the Pope's spear, all right, which is still in the museums right now. They would stick that into a woman's personal parts, and it would explode on the inside of her. They would have this triangular pyramid with a spire on top, and they would reel a man up and down and let it go up into his back door over and over again until he died. And they had all these torture mechanisms. They tortured and killed over 80 million people over the course of 700 years under the order of the popes, in order to spread love and peace and Christianity all around the planet. And so, but this is, again, all with the authority of Rome. So this global conquest to spread this and collect money was all done by bloodshed and torture, not by love and peace.
So just as Jesus says, love thy neighbor and do unto others as you don't do unto you, but make sure that you bring a check, cash, or Venmo.
Exactly.
I don't remember Jesus saying these things.
No.
And it's fascinating, like you see all of this when you walk into. By the way, I don't know how many churches I walked into, probably 30 churches, because they're everywhere in Italy. Like you can't
everywhere you turn.
Like there's a huge church, and then like 2 blocks later there's another church, and it's like there are churches everywhere. And every single church I walked into, no matter how rinky-dink it looked from the outside, you walk in, masterpieces on the wall, on the ceilings, scrub. It was, no matter where you went, it was nothing like here in the States. Here you walk into some churches and they're very humble, and there's no such thing as a humble church in Italy. It was just. So as you, as an ignorant person from the field or from the country, and you walk into St. Peter's Basilica and you don't understand anything, you have to believe God is here, because it's just something it's
so grand.
So grand. And I consider myself a fairly educated person, and I walked in and you're just in awe. You're in awe of it. So I could say, wow, if I didn't know better, you could easily fall into this. I mean, it's
yes.
And then let's not talk about the marketing campaign of hiring every great master artist of the last 500 years and commission religious. That's why every time you go into a museum, it's always generally speaking, always Jesus or some sort of religious depiction, because the Vatican paid for all of that, right? Am I right?
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. Even the depiction of Jesus was switched over to the face that became the global popular face. That was actually Caesar Borgia, who was actually one of the sons of an actual pope, and killed his own brother to try to take his place. This guy was just an evil, brutal, killing ruler. His father commissioned the artist to paint his image as the image of Jesus, and that image still propagates the planet till this very day. So the image that a lot of people are praying to is not the Jesus that they think it is, but actually a natural born killer.
And it is that's true, because it was just propaganda. That was the propaganda of the day, were these master works of paintings and
Yeah.
you know, frescoes and things like that. That was the propaganda of the day. That was the art of, that's all the only way they could get messages like this out there. So because of this one artist, you have these images. But generally speaking, if you go back far enough, I mean, Jesus wasn't a white guy with blue eyes. That doesn't make it.
No.
He just wasn't, right?
Yeah, he wasn't a white guy with blue eyes. And you read the description, he had bronze feet and he had tight curly hair. I mean, so clearly you're talking about somebody that looks like they come from that region, which really is the northern tip of Africa, aka Arabia, in that region. And I've been there, of course, now dozens of times. I mean, all those people, the people who are homegrown, they all look the same. Matter of fact, when I go there, they go, "You my brother, you my brother." I say they want to sell me something. Of course, I'm your brother now. But
of
the
course.
But the point is, you get it. I mean, obviously, he wasn't a white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes, but that's a depiction that took hold and took root and has been burnt into the minds. What a great marketing campaign! I mean, you want to talk about applied neuroscience. That image is burnt into the brains of people before they're even conceived. When they come out of the womb, they're looking for that image. So they did a great marketing and propaganda campaign with that image. They burnt it into the brains of people so deeply, it's embedded in our DNA.
Well, I mean, look at Santa Claus. I mean, the image of Santa Claus was basically a marketing campaign from Coca-Cola, and that's that Santa Claus we all know and love. You know, that's the image. The jolly old man with the white, with the big white beard, and that was just an image created by Coca-Cola. Am I wrong with that? But that's now propagated. So now that is the image of quote unquote Saint Nick.
Yeah. It started off in the UK with a gentleman, and then Coca-Cola kind of adopted it and then enhanced it to what they're liking, the way they wanted it to be. A chubby guy was first a skinny guy. But they adopted it, they enhanced it to what they wanted it to be, but it took hold again. Like you said, it's great marketing, great propaganda, subliminal information, subliminal messages and teachings, and it just gets birthed into the genome, and it passes on from generation to generation. Same thing happened with this Jesus figure. His name isn't even Jesus. His name was Yeshua.
Yeshua,
okay?
Yeah,
that's the actual name. And so, but again, Jesus, the J is a new letter. It didn't even exist until recently. I mean, so we're talking about, okay, what is really the name? Isus. When you look into the root word of that and you go back into some of the ancient tongues, you find out it's Hail Zeus. So people that are calling on the name of Jesus all the time, they're calling for help from Zeus, which is actually a converted name from the Sumerian pantheon. So they're calling on Enlil, is what they're calling on. They're not calling on any son of the creator of the universe. People don't understand the power of speech and then calling on names and the cymatic frequencies they create. Then when you're completely ignorant to what you're really saying, it's no wonder why billions of prayers go up every single day all around the world. But then again, look at the state of the world on a daily basis. You can clearly see that if somebody has a positive outcome, more than likely it's just luck.
And I know this conversation will